Hi, my name is Emily Egbert, and this is my lesson plan for Education 304. So I'm going to be teaching my nephew, who is actually 5 years old. That's a typo. He is 5, turning 6 this September. And he's a boy, obviously. And some things that would be nice to know about him, and he's tall for his age. So a lot of people mistake him for being older than he actually is. And so he's dealt with that his whole life, so people are surprised when he's more uncoordinated or not as far developed as he should be, because they almost think something's wrong with him. But he has been begging to learn how to ride his bike without his training wheels on, so that is what I'm going to help him do. And his name is Cameron Coombs. He's my sister's son. And this is him right here in the Spider-Man shirt. So like I said, I want to help Cameron ride his bike without the training wheels, and he's really excited, which is really going to help me. The fact that he's excited to learn it will help him keep this in his memory and learn it to the best of his abilities. So most websites that I found that were looking at how old kids should be to learn how to ride a two-wheeler said about 6 or 7, which surprised me, but Cameron feels like he's ready, and after studying some of the different concepts for this class, he's showing signs of being ready, even though his age isn't quite up to this standard. So the first thing I looked at when I was considering teaching this to Cameron is his ZPD, or his zone of proximal development. And this is Vygotsky. So this is the difference between what a learner can do with help versus what a learner can do without help. And I feel like this is right in Cameron's ZPD, even though his age doesn't say so. I think it's going to be challenging for him, which will be good, but I think he's competent too. I think he'll fit right along in this line. And like I said, parents.com and a lot of the other websites and researchers said that kids should be at least 6 or 7 before they learn how to ride a bike without a parent's help. And like I said, I've made sure that this is going to be something that Cameron can master before we even start, so he doesn't get discouraged and not want to try again. So Cameron's personal fable, like a lot of kids his age, he is obsessed with superheroes, but especially Spider-Man. He's called himself Peter Parker forever. And he even has a Spider-Man bike. So I want to use this when I'm trying to help him ride his bike and play into his personal fable a little bit to help motivate him even more by just helping him. I mean, letting him be Spider-Man, let him chase down the bad guys with his bike and stuff. So Cam's self-concept. I always felt like self-concept is really similar to personal fable. His self-concept is, as Maslow describes it, the self-concept is how we think about and evaluate ourselves. To be aware of oneself is to have concept of oneself. So Cameron's a daredevil. He is always doing things and always getting hurt. But after reading Why Gender Matters, I realized that the kids that have been hurt are more likely to take risks and to take chances and to go out on a limb, which is good because for a bike, there's a good chance that he'll actually fall and scrape a knee or bump an elbow. And so hopefully with his daredevil attitude and his seeing himself as an athlete, even though he really isn't, he's a little bit discoordinated, will hopefully keep him motivated and not hinder his learning. He thinks he's very funny, which he is, but he always has a lighthearted attitude about everything, and I think he'll really enjoy this. Next, I want to make sure this stays in his memory forever. Everyone always says when they're learning something that it's like riding a bike, that you'll never forget it. So it shouldn't be too hard to make sure that this stays in his memory because he's using so many different parts of his body and his sensory register, and it'll be on his working memory and it will easily store to his long-term memory. It is a simple task once you get it down, but when you're first learning it seems really difficult. So Piaget's cognitive stage. Cameron is 5 and falls into the pre-operational stage in Piaget's cognitive stages, which means that he is working on his verbal skills and his developmental skills. which has been hard for him because looks so much older than he really is. People think that he should be in the concrete operational and starting to read and do all these things that he hasn't even started kindergarten, but his dad's 6'7", so he really is in I think he's in the 97th percentile or the 98th percentile for height. But he does work well off of his own tuition. He doesn't have a lot because he's only 5, but he struggles with problems until he figures them out. So I think that he will really stick with this. I want to try and help him make the small connections he needs in order to learn how to pedal with confidence. I just want him to see that it's just like riding a two-wheeled bike, except that he just has to keep his balance and do some other things to keep control of the bike. So some of the aspects of riding a two-wheeler that I want him to learn are safety first. I really want him to know that every time we get on a bike, we put on a helmet, or any of the other ththings that his mom wants to put him on, but I think a helmet is all she really requires. And actually the law down in Utah where I'll be teaching him. I want him to learn how to balance the bike. That's really important because he's used to having the training wheels do this for him. But that's the first thing we'll be doing is he and I will take off the training wheels together. I want him to learn how to coordinate, which is a little more difficult for Cameron just because he is a little bit more awkward, and he may be better on a bike. I've just seen him run around and play a little bit, and just runs flat-footed and trips a little bit, but on a bike, we'll have to see how he does. And starting, which is really the hardest part because you're so wobbly at first, I want him to not be scared of this and learn that that's just part of the process. So hopefully we will be able to help Cameron learn how to ride his bike and he can remember it for the rest of his life. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much.